My name is Ray.
Hi, this is Michael.
Welcome to our episode of Ray's Economics Club. Today we talk about indifference curve and consumer choice.
Okay.
So, utility. Now, utility is basically a measure of customer or individual satisfaction with certain good or service. And obviously, utility is subjective, but for theoretical purposes, for this model, we're going to measure it objectively, basically assuming utility equals FC, or the multiplication of the two amounts of goods. So what this means, basically, let's say clothing, we have two goods, clothing and food. Let's say we have one curve here, right? We have 10 units of clothing and 5 units of food, or 10 units, 5 units of clothing and 5 units of food. And so that would mean that our utility function here, in this case, assumes that our total utility is basically F times C, food times clothing. 5 times 5 is 25. So 5 units of clothing times 5 units of food equals 25. So our first curve here, utility always equals 25 because 5 times 5 is 25, 10 times 2.5 is 225. The entire curve, the combination of the units of two goods, basically always multiplies in 25. And then basically since utility in this function is always the same for every point on this curve, we call this an indifference curve.
Exactly.
Because the curve is each point is indifferent to total utility. It's always 25.
Yeah, to consumers it's the same. They don't care A or C or B.
On any bundle of goods in this case. Let's say consumer income increases, and we can shift our curve to the right to this point right here, or the indifference curve right here. In this indifference curve, utility is always equal to 50. We see 10 units of food, 5 units of clothing, or maybe 5 units of food, 10 units of clothing. Always 5 minus 10, 10 minus 5, always 50.
Yeah.
And so let's say it's just even further to here, this third indifference curve will be maybe our maximized, and this small function here of utility where we see here is always 100, where we see 10 units of clothing, 10 units of food, 100.
Yeah, it's when you have more budgets, of course, you can increase your utilities. Yeah.
Yes.
But each of the curves, we call that indifference curve. U1 25, U2 50, and U3 100. And remember, all those indifference curves, they will never cross each other.
Yes.
Why?
They
Think
always,
about it. It's easy. So, but they won't cross each other. Okay.
So let's say, but of course, let's say we have to compare this to a budget, right? So this is our budget curve right here. Basically, this represents all the combination of goods we can afford.
Yeah.
So obviously, we want to buy the combination that maximizes our total utility, where utility equals F times C. And so we see here, on this first utility curve crosses our budget curve at point A. The second the second indifference curve crosses our budget curve at point C.
Yeah, the first actually cross at both A and B.
Both A and B.
Yeah.
And so we see here, C obviously, because the second indifferent curve at U2 is U2 is greater than U1.
Yeah, it's preferred. Yeah.
So point C, since it's on the greater indifference curve, its utility F times C is higher than point A or point B, and it's also the highest feasible point because it's affordable since it's on the budget line. Conversely, point D, which has the highest utility in this case, because it's on U3, which is higher than U2 and on U1, but point D is not on the budget curve, so we can't afford it, so it's not feasible, or it's not realistic, and so it's not practical. So of course we see here basically the slope for the indifference curve where it's negative delta C over delta F.
Yeah, basically that's if you have some basic algebra or the calculus, we can easily find that the tangent line on the indifference curve is always delta C divided by delta F, the units difference,
so
right? Yeah.
The budget curve obviously is delta P over negative delta P over delta C, and so when they both meet, the tangent point is where these two
slope must equal each other. So
and that directly correlates to our marginal rate of substitution equation here.
Yeah, in fact, in the early episodes from macroeconomics, we discussed those indifferent curves and discussed international trade. We discussed what is MS and why the marginal rate substitution must equal to PF divided by PC.
And we see here, this makes sense that this is basically where we determine or deduce from our tangent points here on a budget line, our maximum utility, because remember our marginal utility function, our utility function basically stated the exact same equation here, except we shift. We just do a cross shift of the two numerators and denominators, where MUF. Let's write here MUF over PF equals MUC over PC.
Yeah.
That's our marginal utility function, and that directly correlates right here with our marginal rate of substitution.
It's the same thing, but basically, if we convert it to MUF divided by PF equals MUC divided by PC, that really implies that each additional dollar purchasing power must be the same across different products.
Yes, and that
Right?
would maximize total utility.
Yeah, that means the optimal condition.
Yeah.
That means the consumer's choice at that time point will not deviate.
Yeah.
Because in that point, each dollar's purchase power has been maximized.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And so for final clues, utility is measured in util, satisfaction level in this theoretical model, and consumption brings to consumers. So indifference curves means that equal utility consumption combinations between combinations of all goods in the indifference curve have the same total utility, where U equals the multiplication of two goods,
Yeah.
the combination of two goods. Consumer choice, basically under budget constraints, we talked about before, follows the margin utility function, and margin utility of good X over price X equals margin utility of good Y over price Y, as Michael mentioned. This maximizes the buying power of for the utility of each good. So per dollar purchase power must remain the same to be maximized of total utility and to really draw the most purchasing power out of the dollar for purchasing of both goods.
Yeah. So that concludes the basic concepts in microeconomics. And finally, I just want to stress that the marginal functions are really important in economic study, as we already seen, right?
Yeah.
Marginal cost and marginal revenue, marginal social cost, marginal private cost, and so on. Okay, so you can see a lot of discussions are focused on marginal functions because that's really very important in the optimal decision making in economics. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.